people have been homosexual for centuries.
Forever.
For thousands of years. Homosexuality is not...
The Greeks was gay.
There's nothing new about
It
homosexuality.
comes out of Greco-Roman culture. There is no history of homosexuality in Africa prior to European contact.
There are people,
and if there is, I'd like to see the proof.
What about people in Igbo cultures of intersex people? Like all this different genders.
Okay, most homosexuals are not intersex.
It's not.
Most lesbians are not intersex.
I'm talking about genders,
There's
not
no such thing as a
homosexuality.
lesbian. That's fake.
Sexuality is a choice. Gender is a choice. But I believe that
Gender's a choice?
yes,
You
Gender is
choose
not a
if you're
choice.
born
You're
with a
born a
penis
man
or
or a
a
woman.
vagina? You're
Science-
chosen?
Gender is not a choice.
Scientifically,
Gender is not a choice.
Scientifically, sex is how we determine if a person is male or female. Your sexuality is not a choice. If
Dr.
you were
Umar
born
Johnson?
a male or a female, that's not. Your gender is how you are seen by society.
That is my young engineer.
According to who?
Scientifically,
According to who?
What science?
Because that has no precedent in traditional African culture. So where are you getting those definitions from? You're getting them from white people.
Lil Boosie and his son on social media, and unfortunately we use social media all the wrong way. It's sad. They were letting you know we're not rocking with the Wade family on, gender identifying babies. Will you touch on that topic, please, Dr.
Well, I am of the firm opinion that the Creator only made two genders. For 99% of human history, there have only been two genders. All of a sudden, in post-Obama America, and he had a big role to play in this, all of a sudden we now have about 6, 7, 8 different genders now. And it is absolutely ridiculous. And to me, it is a form of cultural imperialism. Because black people coming from an African tradition, although we've had our struggles with the LGBT movement, that is not something that we openly advocated and advertised, and we never accepted it as a normal way of things. That's the difference. Although we may have always had homosexuality, as you mentioned a minute ago, there was an etiquette to it. You would not bring that around the children. You would not discuss that around the children. You will keep it with you. Now it is changed. Now it is out front in your face. It's being taught to the children in school. I actually predicted this about 20 years ago, and people called me crazy when I said they would start teaching homosexual studies in the schools. Well, it's there now.
And they don't
It's
even
there
teach
now.
African American studies in the school. They don't even teach African
Exactly.
studies
They don't
in the
even
school.
teach black history, but they will teach gay studies.
That's a fact.
Not only that, there's currently a movement for homosexual reparations. They're arguing that gay people are entitled to reparations for all the years that they were not allowed to get married and all the years that there was a stigma against them. So they also want reparations like black people want reparations. But here's the thing I want to be clear about. There's no such thing as a gay child. There is no such thing as a gay 7, 8, 9-year-old child. That situation that's going on with Dwayne Wade's son, to me, it's hurtful. And it's hurtful because you don't allow a 12-year-old child to make a permanent, irreversible decision about their life.
Right.
Now, if he wants to make that decision when he turns 18 as a grown man, that's different. But at 12 years old, you're only in the 6th grade, 7th grade, 5th grade in some cases. You don't even know who you are yet. How dare your father let you make an irreversible decision that's going to affect you for the rest of your life? What if that young man turns 30 or 40 or even 21 and begins to revolt against this new lifestyle that his parents allowed him to select for himself? What happens when he starts going through depression and drug addiction and alcoholism and promiscuity because he's now upset at the fact that he should have never been allowed to make this type of decision? We have to stop letting America dictate how we raise our children.
Dr. Johnson, it's been suggested that well, I don't know what the homosexual movement or whatever you want to call it is like a direct assault on black masculinity.
I don't agree with that.
Well,
And
actually,
it is
Marvel,
a direct assault on black masculinity.
I
There's a
just
new
think-
term that's called toxic masculinity, where they basically want to demonize, masculinity. And all of this is about eugenics. All of this is about population control. All of this is about the destruction of the black family. And let me say this point, and I'll be quiet on this one. Black women need to really check themselves on this issue of toxic black masculinity, and on this issue of feminism, and on this issue of promoting and proliferating LGBT lifestyles amongst our children. And the reason black women in particular have to be on guard for their own hypocrisy is because you can't on the one hand say there's not enough black men to go around and I can't find a good man, or I can't find a man at all, but yet you support a lifestyle that is going to reduce the available pool of black men and make it even smaller than what it already is. You are either for the black family or you are not. You cannot be for the black family and be for a lifestyle that is eroding the fabric of the black family.
Well, being the only woman here, I would just like to say that people have been homosexual for centuries.
Forever.
For thousands of years. Homosexuality is not.
The Greeks was
it's
gay.
nothing. There's nothing new about
It
homosexuality.
comes out of Greco-Roman culture. There is no history of homosexuality in Africa prior to European contact.
There are people-
and if there is, I'd like to see the proof.
What about people in Igbo cultures of intersex people? Like all this different genders.
Okay, most homosexuals are not intersex.
It's not-
Most lesbians are not intersex.
I'm talking about genders,
There's
not
no such thing as a
homosexuality.
lesbian. That's fake.
Sexuality is a choice. Gender is a choice. But I believe that
Gender's a choice.
yes,
You
gender,
Gender is
choose
not a
if you're
choice.
born
You're
with a
born a
penis
man
or
or a
a
woman.
vagina. You're
Science-
chosen.
Gender is not a choice.
scientifically,
Gender is not a choice.
Scientifically, sex is how we determine if a person is male or female. Your sexuality is not a choice. If
Dr.
you are
Umar
born
Johnson?
a male or a female, that's not. Your gender is how you are seen by society.
That is my young engineer.
According to who?
Scientifically,
According to who?
What science?
Because that has no precedent in traditional African culture. So where are you getting those definitions from? You're getting them from white people.
Getting from
You're
dictionaries.
getting them from white people.
If scientifically we
White
define
dictionary.
male,
No, that's not scientific. That
if
is not
scientifically
scientific.
we
Well,
all.
that's just like saying black and white. It's something that they made up. Black and white is fake.
Exactly.
so if we all
we're gonna
agree
go
to
through that.
understand that sex is how we
Well,
determine
it's
if a
really
person
African
is,
and non-African.
if we all
Absolutely.
agree that is sex is how we determine if a person is male or female, then that is how we identify a person's sex. How we identify their gender is how we see this person. If
Doc-
they're more masculine or feminine, it's
Doctor-
a social understanding rather
In
than a
African
scientific
culture,
understanding.
sex and gender are not separable.
Right. And I agree with
Okay.
that.
Sex
Doctor-
and gender are not separable. You are not born a man but choose to be a woman. That is anti-African propaganda. That is white folk stuff. That is not ours.
Dr. Umar Johnson, that is my young millennial engineer who, for the most part, I love hearing their
Perspective.
His perspective is
generation.
it's
Well, we
interesting.
must allow the dialogue. It's healthy.
But-
It's
but-
healthy.
Absolutely.
We must allow the dialogue. He grew up
Yes.
grew up in a generation that has to face this type of a thing. When you and I went to school, we didn't have to choose if we wanted to be a boy or a girl. We didn't have that choice.
was not part
we
of
were
our-
boys. It was just we never even
However-
thought about being a girl.
However,
But now
there
in
were
this
always
generation, it's
people.
changed.
However, there were always people who were feminine or who were masculine. So
Yes, there were, Queen, but here's the point that I want to make sure you get. I agree with you. We've always had to deal with an undercover brother in the community. That's not the issue, though. The issue is the systematic promotion of that behavior as a normal alternative lifestyle.
Yes.
That's the issue. The issue ain't whether we had gay people. The issue is whether or not we ever promoted it as a normal choice of life for our children. That's the issue.
And
well,
it's a
who
tool
are we
that
to
they
say
use.
that it's not normal for them? It's
But it's
their
a-
normal.
I'll
It's
tell
not
you what, you know
our
what's
normal, but it's
Here's
their
normal.
normal.
No, I'll tell you what's normal, okay? Because psychology determines what's normal and what's not. What's normal is what is in the best interest of the community. That's normal. So for black people, what is the benefit of the open promotion of lesbianism, homosexuality, bisexuality, and transgenderism? Give me one benefit that accrues to the black community by promoting that. I can give you a bunch of detriments. Can you give me one benefit?
The
of
benefit
promoting
is that they are happy being who they are.
No. I said, what is the benefit to the community?
Unity.
You're giving me individual
Individual, right.
benefit.
Well,
What is
I
in
guess
the-
the
how
happy
does that
people
help?
would be better people in the community if they live in their true self. If you live in your truth, then you live in your truth. It's not for me to say what your truth is.
I don't think
I wouldn't let a
It is.
child-
That's what
I wouldn't let a
community-
child do
That's
that.
what communities do. Communities determine culture, and culture is the collective way that we're going to behave.
But
You
we
don't
live
just
in a white
decide what
culture. We live in a white culture. We
But
just black people
I
living in a
didn't
white
ask you about
culture.
the white culture, sister. No. Don't run away from the question. We're talking about the black community. What is in the best interest for us, not them, us? How does letting men marry men help save the black family? It doesn't.
Well, if
How
it's
does
going
it
to
help
be
build
a
strong black
family,
men? It doesn't. It
Dr.
ain't
Johnson,
about individual preferences. It's about the best interest of the community. And the problem with us, we are so individualized. We are so selfish that we can't even begin to wrap our minds around subjugating our personal preferences to the best interest of the race. And that's what's wrong with black people. We're the only people in the country who cannot subjugate your personal selfish agenda and make it second behind the best interest of the community. And that's why we're losing.
And that is why it is important, sir, for people like yourself. I want to personally thank you. You are ahead of your time. People will not understand you for the most part. People will not, just like your ancestor who was ahead of his time. And I pray that you are not too late and others like you are not too late, because what's going to happen is the few that do listen, that are conscious, it is going to be upon us to be the example of this is my true position in the village. As a man, as a father, as a husband, as a whatever that position is, and that has to be instilled in the parents. I can remember coaching young kids who mama might be selling her cell phone Figueroa, or no daddy at the house. Coach, I'm hungry. Can we stop and get something to eat? Boy, when you get home, somebody will feed you. Far from the truth. And not only would no one feed him, the 2 hours that I spent with him is the only 2 hours that anyone gave this child any attention and catered to them, to the point where when you send them back, if you send these kids back to parents who are not good parents, that little 2 hours meant nothing. And that is why I do believe a lot of our young, if you shun a child, he will burn the village to feel its warmth.
So what if we gonna shun the gay people? That is
good question.
So our boys don't have everyday black male professionals to admire and emulate. The only thing they see is the athlete and the entertainer. So that's one reason. So we got to look at the black professional males who are vacating the hood, leaving these boys with the opinion that the only thing I can be is a basketball player, football player,